What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about the final checks I put into mixing and mastering my EP, and I also want to tell you about how I chose to write my EP for like a storytelling purpose point of view. So in this video, I'm going to start with like the songwriting / arrangement and why I did that, and then the second part is going to be like the actual mixing and mastering part, which I'll timestamp down below for you. Other than that, if you do like the video, enjoy the content, make sure you like, comment down below and subscribe if you're new here. YouTube always doesn't recommend my videos, so you interacting with it actually helps my engagement. So that's really cool. Let's get into it. Real quick, I want to show you why I color coded all these tracks for you guys so you guys can better understand a few things. First of all, I made all my tracks very DJ friendly for other dubstep producers, and I also made them a little diverse. So first, light blue is going to be intros, breakdowns, and outros. Intro, breakdown, outro, intro, breakdown, outro, intro, breakdown. Next, the magenta is the chorus, verse, hook, whatever you want to call it, the main part before the build. As you see that they're a little different in variety, but they all have two sets of that. Next is going to be the builds, which are the greens. All builds are 8 bars, 8 bar, 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 8 bar. Everything's 8 bars. Drops are all 16 bars, 16 bars, 16 bar, and they're all in yellow. And then you'll see the second track has a few red, which is just a fake out section that I do not include as part of the drop personally. Why did I color code this? Why am I explaining this to you? Because I want to tell you two things. When you're writing EP, I think it's very important to have diversity amongst your tracks, not just drops. Like if you just want to do all heavy, like this is all dubstep. This is all dubstep hype trap. Like it's very heavy, but your writing should be a little different, and that can be like a different length of intro, different chorus, a little spice with some fake outs and some not. Like what you add to it just changes the track, because you could do like an 8 bar intro, 16 bar hook, what verse, whatever, 8 bar build, 16 bar drop on every single track. Like you can make it look very similar. What the fun part of it is making every track unique in the EP in its own way. I did that through arrangement, and also all my drops are very different. None of my drops are the exact same in this one, just because it was something I personally wanted to do. So the next thing is I made it very DJ friendly. And how did I make it very DJ friendly? Is following the normal arrangement format, which is going to be through this right here: build, drop, outro. And why this is the most DJ friendly way to do this? Because it adds versatility. First of all, you're usually going to mix in a dubstep track. Either if you like the intro, then you'll mix it in there or later, but usually you're going to mix it at some point in the builds of something, cut out one and bring in the other, which, say you mix this track in at the build, you drop it right here, you have this build, right? And maybe you don't want to play the second drop. Maybe you're ready to go to the next song. So let me line these up real quick and show you. For example, if I wanted to bring in this track and I have this one going, well, I can bring it in either at this point, play the first drop, second drop, or third drop during this 8 bar build, depending on which build I want to bring in this drop. If you don't want to bring in during the drop, then you can either let it play the second drop. You can start mixing in here and just play the second drop, and then you're into an outro. And every track, not even EP, just every track, you need some type of break from the energy. We've built all this suspense. We finally let it drop. We said, we're going even harder. We're even more energy. Like this track has been up now for roughly a minute and 10 seconds. Yeah, roughly like a minute 10 seconds. So let's break down the energy. So always have some type of break. This also allows you to mix out of a drop really easily. It doesn't have to be as in key, depending on how you do like your breakdown. If it's very low energy, you can mix into something else. You can go to a different BPM, but always just have something low energy. Never just cut straight back into something exciting. You can. You're free to do whatever you want, but like if you want to get the most DJable track, this is kind of it. Or after your first drop, obviously, you can just like, if your track's shorter, obviously you're probably gonna have longer hooks if that's it. But honestly, it's still like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which a lot of dubstep tracks are. But just make sure you have a break. That's all I'm saying. That's really it for the arrangement part. Now for the mix and master, there's a few main things I like to look at. First, I can't really play any of the audio for you, which I apologize. This is sent to a label, so I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, but I do want to educate you while I'm doing this in real time. And there's a few things I look for. As you know, span and your loudness meter of choice. Always use those. Always, always, always using it. So what I will check And what I do in all my tracks, I'll bring down the width in all my buildup, and I always want to make sure my buildup is not louder than my drop. If my buildup's louder than my drop, then we've already peaked at the max amount of energy in your build, and your drop just doesn't hit as well. So I used LUFS to check my buildup, and I'm also going to check and span the width. Now, I personally pull in my width in all my tracks, which I'll show you. You'll see let me just do something real quick. This is your mono signal, the dark blue, and this lighter blue, which when it comes out of phase is this red, is your stereo. Now you'll see in my builds, you'll see them close together, and as it goes on, you'll see it like separate a little bit, which means it's more mono, and when the drop hits, they're very close again, which means it makes it sound fuller. And I check this with all my tracks. For example, let's build, and then we're gonna check this out. So one thing during the build we wanna check is this getting further apart, and then we also wanna check the LUFS in it. So here we go. So as we can see, there's a little bit of phasing. Now there's really none. It's getting, you can see it start pulling apart, especially in the highs. And then once we hit, boom, we're in the drop. We're like -3 peak there, and now we're already at -1.9, which is roughly, I like to mix like -2 for my dubstep personally. And you can see they're way closer during this part. Okay, so that's one example. Let's do the second track now. Second track, same thing. LUFS, very important. Now we need it to be around -2 to match my first drop. We can see it start to pull away with the stereo here because it's getting pulled in. And we see it hits around -1.8. This is a little fake out area, so I'm not too louder. It is obviously louder than the build, which is good. And then the drop comes in. And now we're hitting at -2.5, -2.2, -2.3. You know, we're around the -2, but the second part, boom, -1.9. So we're there. My peaks are there once again. And then I can show you for the sake, the same thing happens in the third track. And how I achieve this and how I get very cohesive mastering is using just a similar mastering rack, which if you haven't seen my video, you can go check out this free mastering rack I have for Ableton 11, all stock. And the one thing you can do is bring down the stereo width of stuff 75% in your build, pull that down a little bit so it doesn't sound as full, and you can also bring down your build gain. So if your build is louder than your drop, you can use this build gain before your compressors, which still makes your drops look nice and full. They just get a little more dynamic, but you'll see they're always touching the top ridge. Versus if you did the utility last, you'll start seeing this pencil away from that. And a lot of labels look for this, so you don't want that to do that. So if you ever use your utility, make sure it's always first in your chain, and you'll still have a very nice fat master, and it will bring down like your actual loudness and stuff. Not only am I checking for loudness, make sure obviously my intros aren't louder, which we can check real quick as well. If I just turn off my mastering rack as well, it's getting really loud. Here is the intro of mine. You can see the sub isn't as prominent. Yeah, it's nowhere near as loud. Even at the peak of the section, which should be right here, it's the loudest part, it's my chorus. -5, so nowhere near -1, you know, it's still not as loud. And you can still see though, we're still hitting up at 0, you know, or none of our stuff is going down. So it's a very healthy master. So then last thing I want to talk about is last kind of creme de la creme I check with, which is going to be another video, which if you haven't checked it out yet, you can check it as well. It's the Ozone mastering. If you don't have Ozone, what we're doing here is fine. Sorry, that's distracting me. You can compare your waves, like, okay, my sub's in here, there's this here, like just copy and paste the wave. But if you do have Ozone, watch the video I put up top, and you should be able to the biggest thing about it is this match EQ. First of all, the reference track is Name Drop, which I'll play real quick. I literally dragged it in. This is the drop of Name Drop. That is my reference track because it fit one of my tracks the best. Theirs is the orange spike. So I capture the reference, then I'll capture my track, and it'll tell you where it's kind of sitting. And you can see that their second harmonic and their sub's a little higher, and their brightness is a little brighter. Other than that, it's a pretty solid wave. So this shows me that my mix is pretty solid, and I'm in the right space. And I'll do this for every single track, and I'll use whatever reference I think is closest to those. Like for the second one, I used Fight Milk by Company and Woolly. So you just find the most similar, and then you can apply this, which I'll usually do this at the very, very, very end once I think I have everything mixed down, and make sure nothing's out of its place too much. Like this is fine, and I would put this Ozone right before my final soft clipper. So it'd be after my mastering rack like this, or I guess it would be within it since my mastering rack is all within one. That's what I would do at the end to check your master. And I think that's really it for EP. So if there's something I didn't cover, or maybe you have a question about, please feel free to ask me below. If you learned something in this video and did like it, please like it, share it, comment, and even subscribe if you're new here because it does help. And if you guys learned something, have a great weekend.